Story 1. The Cursed Royal Family. My name is Charles, and I am the eldest child of the royal family residing in Eastern Europe, where my father, King Charles III, has 3 wives, 8 daughters, and 6 sons. My mother, Queen Margaret, has 2 daughters and 2 sons, with my brother Edward being the youngest of us all. We live in a palatial house that was built in the early 1800s, with 72 rooms, including over 50 bedrooms, 30 bathrooms, a royal bath area, multiple kitchens, storehouses, and a large dungeon that was unknown to our generation. The house had a rich history with many ancient artifacts and decor elements that made it intriguing and fascinating to explore. It's been believed for over 100 years that our royal family is cursed, as every generation sees at least 1 to 2 children that are mentally or physically challenged. My brother Edward was one of them, but was deeply loved by us all. He was 14 and could not speak or see, but had a bright mind, warm heart, and ears so sensitive that he could pick up the sound of a spoon falling almost half a mile away. Edward and I were very close. However, he seemed to enjoy his time alone, and often we would not see each other for months altogether. Until this day, I wasn't aware that he had experienced multiple paranormal activities since childhood, to the extent that he had almost become friends with the spirits residing in our palatial house. While he could not see them, he had the ability to communicate with them. Over 6 months ago, my health suddenly started deteriorating, and I fell ill every other week. No amount of treatment or prayers seemed to help. But there was something more to my illness that none could understand. Every night I was haunted, harassed, and scared by spirits that would visit me in my room. They would whisper in my ear, touch me in the darkness, and show me horrific visions that left me terrified and speechless. I hadn't spoken to anyone in the last 6 months, not even my family, who were at their wits' end trying to figure out what was wrong with me. My parents called for the best doctors and priests to help me, but nothing worked. It was as if I had been living in a nightmare. Each night I would be awakened by the creaking sound of the door, and I could sense a cold, eerie presence in my room. I would try to scream for help, but my voice would always fail me. It was as if the spirits had taken away my voice, leaving me helpless and vulnerable. Being fiercely protected, Edward had only recently learnt about my illness from our mother, who was on the verge of a breakdown. She had only informed him about my health because the doctors had given up hope and asked our family to prepare for the worst. Edward had decided to spend all his time with me and even moved into my room to sleep with me. One night, while I was trembling with fear, I heard a whisper in my ear. It was Edward's voice, and he was telling me that he had figured out why the spirits were after me. He explained that in my past life, I had made a grave mistake, which had angered one of the spirits, and now that spirit was seeking revenge on me by torturing me in this life. Edward then told me that he had a plan to make the spirits go away. He asked me to hold on to his hand and close my eyes. I did as he said, and suddenly I felt a warm sensation spread through my body. It was as if Edward was transferring his power to me, and then I could see. I could see the spirits, the room, and even Edward, who was sitting beside me with a serene smile on his face. He then took me on a journey through time, showing me my past life and the mistake that I had made. He explained that I could not change the past, but I could make amends for it in this life. And so we started working on a plan to appease the spirits. We collected all the antique swords, ammunition, and other ancient decor elements from the palatial house and offered them to the spirits as a peace offering. We also performed a ritual to cleanse the house of any negative energy that might be lingering. It took us 3 days, but finally the spirits relented. They stopped tormenting me, and I could feel my body getting stronger with each passing day. My parents were amazed to see the change in me. They couldn't believe that I was speaking and walking around again. Edward was hailed as a hero, and everyone in the palatial house started treating him with newfound respect. The curse that had plagued our family for generations had finally been broken, and all thanks to Edward, who had the power to communicate with the spirits and make them see reason. As for me, I knew that I had a second chance at life. I had been given an opportunity to make things right, to undo the mistakes of my past life, and I was determined to make the most of it. From that day on, I made a promise to myself that I would live my life with purpose and make a positive impact on the world. As I lay in my bed looking out at the stars, I couldn't help but feel grateful for Edward. He had been my savior, my guardian angel, and I knew that as long as he was with me, I would never be alone. For he had the power to see what I couldn't, to hear what I couldn't, and to make the impossible possible.
Story 2. The Secret Room. I am David, and I have had the privilege of serving the royal family for many years. Over time, I have witnessed many events that left me astonished and speechless. One such incident occurred when the king and queen moved into a new mansion on the outskirts of the city. It was supposed to be their dream home, but it quickly became a nightmare for all of us. The mansion was massive, with towering columns and marble steps that led to the grand entrance. The gardens surrounding the mansion were breathtakingly beautiful, with fountains and topiaries that seemed to have been crafted by the finest artisans. The interiors of the mansion were even more awe-inspiring, with chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds and furnishings that spoke of luxury and grandeur. However, as soon as we moved in, we began experiencing strange and chilling incidents. The first incident occurred when the queen was taking a stroll in the garden. She suddenly felt a cold breeze pass through her, even though it was a warm summer day. She heard someone whispering her name, but when she turned around, no one was there. She felt uneasy and quickly retreated back to the mansion. The second incident occurred a few nights later. We were all sitting in the dining room, having dinner, when suddenly the lights flickered and the candles went out. It was pitch dark and we couldn't see anything. We heard footsteps coming towards us, but when we lit the candles again, no one was there. The third incident was even more terrifying. One night, the king was alone in his bedroom, reading a book when he heard someone knocking on the door. He got up to answer it, but when he opened the door, no one was there. He went back to his bed, but he heard the knocking again. This time, it was louder and more persistent. He opened the door again, but no one was there. The incidents continued to escalate, and we became increasingly paranoid and scared. We heard strange noises, whispers, and footsteps at all times of the day and night. We saw shadows moving across the walls and heard doors creaking open and shutting by themselves. We even heard a woman screaming, but when we went to investigate, there was no one there. We didn't know what to do, so we contacted a paranormal investigator. The investigator came to the mansion and spent the night there, but he didn't find any evidence of supernatural activity. However, the incidents continued and we felt like we were losing our minds. One night I was walking down the corridor when I saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was a woman dressed in a white gown, and she had long, flowing hair. I tried to call out to her, but she disappeared before I could say anything. I was so frightened that I couldn't sleep that night. The incidents continued for weeks, and we were all on edge. We didn't know what was causing them, and we didn't know how to stop them. We felt like we were being watched, and we were constantly paranoid and scared. Then one day, we discovered a secret room in the mansion. It was hidden behind a bookshelf in the library, and we had never noticed it before. When we opened the door, we saw that the room was filled with dark magic and witchcraft books, pentagrams, and strange symbols. We knew then that the mansion had been built on an ancient burial ground, and the spirits of the dead were still lingering in the mansion. We tried to perform an exorcism, but it was too late. The spirits had already taken over the mansion, and they were not going to leave. We had to leave the mansion and never look back. We left everything behind, including our memories and our dreams of a perfect home. The mansion stood abandoned for many years after our departure, and nobody dared to enter it, afraid of the ghosts that still haunted it. Years went by, and the memory of the mansion and its chilling incidents faded away from our minds. The royal family had long since moved on, and I had retired from my service. However, one day I received a letter from a young couple who had purchased the mansion and were renovating it. They were experiencing the same strange and terrifying incidents that we had experienced years ago. Curious, I decided to pay them a visit. As I walked towards the mansion, I felt a sense of unease and apprehension. The mansion looked just as imposing and grand as it had all those years ago. As I entered the mansion, I saw the young couple, and they looked scared and exhausted. They told me that they had experienced strange noises, cold spots, and objects moving by themselves. They had seen shadows moving across the walls and heard footsteps coming from empty rooms. They had even seen apparitions of a woman in a white gown and a man with glowing red eyes. I listened to their stories and I knew that the spirits that had haunted the mansion were still present. I told them about our experiences and the secret room that we had discovered. They were shocked and horrified, and they asked me to help them perform an exorcism. Together, we entered the secret room and we began the exorcism. We recited ancient spells and prayers, and we burned sage and incense. We prayed to the spirits to leave the mansion and find peace in the afterlife. As we performed the exorcism, we felt a cold breeze pass through us, and we heard a loud noise. We saw a dark shadow move across the walls, and we heard a voice whispering in our ears. We were frightened, but we continued the exorcism with renewed determination. Finally, after hours of reciting prayers and burning incense, we felt a sense of peace and tranquility. The mansion was silent, and we knew that the spirits had left. We left the mansion, feeling relieved and satisfied, and we knew that the young couple would be safe. As I walked away from the mansion, I knew that the memories of the chilling incidents that we had experienced years ago would never fade away. The mansion would always be haunted, and it would always be a place of terror and horror. But I also knew that we had faced our fears and conquered them. We had fought against the spirits that had haunted the mansion, and we had won. And so, the story of the haunted mansion came to an end, but the memories of the chilling incidents that we had experienced remained. The mansion stood abandoned once again, waiting for a new family to move in and experience the horror that we had experienced.
Story 3. The Brotherhood of the Black Sun. My name is Ivan, and I am a member of the royal family. Our family had experienced a horrifying incident that has left us traumatized for years. It all began when my father, King Dmitri, received a letter from an unknown source. The letter was written in a language that we could not decipher, and the words seemed to be written in blood. The letter was not only unsettling, but it also contained a warning. The letter stated that the Brotherhood of the Black Sun, a secret society that had been in existence for centuries, had a grudge against our family. They claimed that they would stop at nothing to destroy our family, and that we would suffer the same fate as the Romanovs. At first, we dismissed the letter as a prank, but then strange things began happening. We would hear footsteps in the halls, but when we went to investigate, there would be nobody there. Doors would open and close on their own, and we would feel an eerie presence around us. It was as if someone or something was watching us, but we could not see them. One night, I woke up to find that my bed was shaking violently. I looked around the room, and to my horror, I saw a figure standing in the corner. The figure was tall and had glowing eyes, and it seemed to be staring right at me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out of my mouth. I felt as if I was paralyzed and I could not move. The figure vanished, and I was finally able to move again. I ran to my parents' room and told them what had happened. They dismissed it as a nightmare, but I knew that it was real. I had never felt so scared in my life. As days went by, the incidents increased in frequency and intensity. We would hear screams coming from the empty rooms, and objects would move on their own. We could not explain what was happening, and we were all terrified. One day, we received another letter, and this time it was different. The letter was from the Brotherhood of the Black Sun, and it stated that they were responsible for the incidents that had been happening in our castle. They wrote that they were going to stop at nothing to destroy our family, and that they would start with our youngest sister, Princess Maria. We were shocked and panicked, and we immediately hired the best security personnel and installed the latest security systems. We thought that we had done everything we could to protect our family, but we were wrong. One night, we heard a loud explosion coming from the castle walls. We ran to investigate and found that the walls were crumbling. We could see a group of people dressed in black robes and hoods, chanting in a language that we could not understand. We realized that the Brotherhood had finally come for us, and we were in grave danger. We tried to escape, but they were too many, and we were outnumbered. They captured us and took us to a hidden location, where they tortured us for days. We thought we were going to die, but then something miraculous happened. The police raided the Brotherhood's hideout, and we were rescued. We were traumatized by the events, and it took us a long time to recover. The Brotherhood of the Black Sun had been a mystery to us, and we needed to know more about them. We hired a private investigator, and we discovered that they had been in existence for centuries. They were known for their ruthlessness and their ability to carry out their plans without being caught. The Brotherhood had a long-standing grudge against our family because of a dispute that had occurred centuries ago. They had been planning their revenge for generations, and they had finally found their opportunity. But we were not going to let them win. We had survived their attacks, and we were not going to let them destroy us. We knew that the Brotherhood was still out there, and that they would stop at nothing to destroy our family. We had to be careful and vigilant. We installed even more security measures, and we trained ourselves in self-defense. We made sure that we were never caught off guard again. We were determined to protect ourselves and our family no matter what it took. Months went by, and everything seemed to be back to normal. The incidents had stopped, and we were all trying to move on with our lives. But then, on the anniversary of the day we were rescued, strange things began happening again. We heard whispers in the halls, and we saw shadows moving around us. We could hear the sound of footsteps, but when we went to investigate, there was nobody there. It was as if the Brotherhood was still haunting us, even though they were gone. One night, I woke up to find that I was not in my room. I was in a dark, damp basement, and I could hear the sound of water dripping from the ceiling. I looked around and I saw that I was not alone. There were other people in the room with me, and they looked scared. I tried to speak to them, but my voice was hoarse, and I could barely make a sound. I realized that we had been kidnapped, and I knew that it was the Brotherhood. They had come back for us. We were trapped in the basement for days, and we had no idea what was happening outside. We were terrified, and we did not know if we would ever make it out alive. But then, something miraculous happened. The police raided the building and we were rescued once again. We were in shock, but we were grateful to be alive. We were taken to the hospital, and we were treated for our injuries. It was a long road to recovery, but we knew that we had each other. The Brotherhood of the Black Sun had been defeated, and we had survived their attacks. We knew that we would never forget what had happened to us, but we also knew that we would not let it define us. We would continue to live our lives, and we would never let fear control us.